Welcome to Vital Biology. This is Padma. In this video, we will study about lymph. As we are studying body fluids and circulation, in which one of the fluid already we have discussed, that is blood. But beside to this blood, even one more fluid is also a part of this circulation, that is lymph. So circulation means definitely we should mention both these fluids. So one is blood and another one is lymph. Okay, blood and as well as the lymph. Both these fluids comes under this circulation. So that's why the channels in which blood flows, actually that forms the blood circulation. Whereas the channels in which lymph flows, that forms the lymphatic circulation. So, as our chapter name is body fluids and circulation, yes, we have to focus both this blood circulation and lymph and the lymphatic circulation. So, how exactly this lymph circulates in our body and its composition and even its function, we will discuss in this class. So, to understand this, first we should know how exactly blood flows in various blood channels, which are called as blood vessels. As we know that in our body, there are three main different types of the blood vessels. So, those are arteries, veins and capillaries. Okay, arteries, veins and capillaries. So, how all these three channels are interconnected with each other and how they helps in transportation of various materials to the cells. So, that we will understand by using one of the diagram. So, here we will start with the arteries. Arteries which carry oxygenated blood to the cells. So, this is our main artery. And now this main artery, it starts from the heart. Now, it will further while transporting or while traveling, it will divide into somewhat the thin branches, which are called as arterioles. See, you can see the difference in its diameter. The diameter of this particular part is somewhat wider, whereas going towards the further, it got divided and their diameter is somewhat less. Okay, and once they reach to the cells, then they will be like somewhat still form very thin blood vessels, which are called as capillaries. Okay, suppose this yellow color which I am drawing, so those are the blood capillaries. So these are the minute blood vessels. Okay, these are the minute blood vessels, and these are connected with these branches of artery, which are arterioles. Okay, and the transportation of whatever the materials actually they brought to the tissues, okay, whatever the materials they have transported to the tissues, that exchange actually occurs near this capillary region. Once the exchange got finished and collected that whatever the waste materials from that particular tissues, now again they will join, these capillaries will join and they will form the small branches of veins, which are called as venules. Okay, so like this. Okay, so venules, and these venules will join and form the veins. So here you can see, once from the heart, whatever the oxygenated blood it is actually carrying, so that particular blood vessel is called as artery, and this artery divides into smaller branches called as arterioles. And these arterioles further, they will branch into minute smallest blood vessels, which are called as capillaries. And near these capillaries, once the exchange of the materials are finished, now these capillaries will join and form venules. And these venules will join and form the vein. And now this vein again taking that deoxygenated blood to the heart. Now, we can observe how exactly blood flows through these channels. So, blood flows through these arteries and through these arterioles, they reaches to the capillaries. Okay, and here whatever the small gaps, as already we have told that these capillaries are just the smallest blood vessels. Okay, suppose if we will see their thickness. Okay, so if this is the capillary, these capillaries have just one cell thickness. Their walls are very thin. Okay, their walls are very thin. They are lined by single layer of endothelial cells. Okay, endothelial cells. Okay, so that's why when this blood flows through these capillaries, some amount of the fluid, it escapes from these walls of the capillaries like this. Okay, so that means here in our diagram, if we will see, yes, so in our diagram, if we will see, so from these capillaries, that fluid flows into this surrounding regions of the capillaries. Okay, where the cells, the tissues are actually present. So this is the way how the fluid escape from the capillaries. Okay, the fluid escapes from the capillaries into the nearby surrounding tissues. So like this, suppose all these are the tissues like this, the tissues are present, the cells are present. Okay, so the fluid once it escape from the, suppose if here in this diagram clearly one we will see, in this diagram we will see clearly. So the fluid once it escape from that capillaries, it enters into this spaces between the cells. See like this, whatever the spaces which are present between the cells, yes, in that spaces this fluid will reaches. Okay, so what is that actually? The fluid which leaked from these capillaries, what exactly it contains? So the whatever the fluid which leaked from the capillaries, okay, so that actually includes one, like it is similar to like that of the blood plasma. Okay, it is similar to blood plasma. It is similar to blood plasma. It consists of a specialized WBC which are called as lymphocytes. It consists of small proteins. Why we said the small proteins, why not the larger one? Because when it escapes from the walls of the capillaries, only the smaller proteins can escape. Larger one cannot escape through the gaps of these capillaries. So that's why the smaller proteins or the smaller substances only can escape from the blood and reaches to these tissues. Okay, and whatever the fluid which enters into now the spaces of between the cells, now that fluid is called as the tissue fluid or otherwise interstitial fluid. See, up to then it is just a blood plasma, but once it reaches into the spaces of these between the cells, yes, then it is called as the that is of interstitial fluid. Okay, it is called as the interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid or otherwise it is also called as tissue fluid. As the fluid is present in these tissues, that's why it is called as the tissue fluid. Okay, from the blood during the transportation, a certain amount of this fluid, when it is actually seeping out of these capillaries, you can imagine throughout our body, our various blood capillaries are present, and from all those regions the same thing happens. Then yes, definitely blood may loses its viscosity. Okay, it may loses its fluidity and it become thick also. Suppose the blood became thick, then it cannot helps in transportation of the materials. The easy movement of that blood cannot be possible in the blood capillaries. So that's why to avoid such a problem, our body have designed again one more network of channels which are called as the lymphatic vessels. Okay, lymphatic vessels. So what are these lymphatic vessels? How exactly they'll helps in returning this fluid again back into the blood circulation. See, from the blood a certain amount of the fluid got leaked. Now this lymphatic system, what it is doing is, it is collecting that leaked fluid and again returning it to the blood circulation. That is the main key role of this lymphatic system. Okay, further now specific channels are actually formed in these tissues. So those specific channels are lymphatic channels. So here, suppose like this, okay, in between you can see the various channels are running like this, okay, various channels. They collect this tissue fluid, okay, these various lymphatic channels, they are collecting the fluid, whatever it is leaked into the tissues, which we said as the tissue fluid. So that tissue fluid now, suppose, so these are the channels, okay, so into these channels the fluid got entered like this. So it is, yes, now it travel through these lymphatic vessels. So now once the fluid collected by these, that is of the lymphatic channels, that fluid is called as the lymph, okay, that fluid is called as lymph. We will write it with somewhat dark color, okay, it is called as the lymph. See here, the fluid is getting different names based on its location. When it is there in the blood, it is called as the plasma. But once it leaked into the tissues, it is called as the tissue fluid or the interstitial fluid. But once again it is collected by these lymphatic channels, now we are calling that fluid as the lymph. Okay, but yes, we can see the difference in few of the characteristic features of this lymph from the blood. So those are like lymph is actually colorless fluid. Okay, lymph is colorless. Lymph is colorless as this lymph does not contain RBC. That is why lymph is colorless. Then what are the formed elements which are present in this lymph? So especially WBC. That too specialized lymphocytes. Okay, specialized lymphocytes are actually present in this lymph. And also it consists of small proteins. Okay, it consists of small proteins. Why we said small proteins? Because when this fluid is escaping from the capillaries, actually the small size substances only can escape as the gaps are very narrow. Okay, that is why the larger proteins, the larger substances, they cannot pass through these narrow passages. That's why they'll remain in the blood, but only the smaller one can pass through those gaps and enter into this tissue fluid and then into this lymph. So that's why we said smaller proteins. And it also consists of various like nutrients, which already we told in blood. The same sort of the nutrients also can be seen in this lymph. Okay, so nutrients, even hormones and fats. Okay, especially fats. So these are the various substances which we can observe in this particular lymph. Okay, lymph contains WBC and that too especially specialized WBC, specialized lymphocytes, and then small proteins, nutrients, hormones and as well as the fats. So when we said about the fats, one of the interesting point we should actually mention here, that is these lymphatic vessels are actually helps in absorption of the fats that is from our intestine. Okay, that is how we will study now. Suppose, so this is the intestinal wall. Okay, so intestine means here, yes, once in our digestive system after our intake of the food material, okay, partial digestion occurs in stomach and a complete digestion occurs in the small intestine. Once that digestion got complete, yes, definitely the food should be absorbed. And further absorption, during that absorption, as we know that intestine, to increase the surface area of absorption, it is provided with a finger-like projections which are called as the villi structures. Okay, so like this the intestinal okay, the intestinal wall consists of small finger-like projections. Suppose one of the intestinal villi, if we will see like this, okay, and this finger-like projection in which it is provided with one of a blood vessel, yes, definitely, and also it consists of the lymphatic vessels. Okay, it also consists of lymphatic vessel. So this actually called as, this lymphatic vessel is called as lacteal. Okay, lacteal. Generally, the blood vessel which is present in this intestinal villi helps in absorption of various nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, water, minerals like this. Whereas this lacteal is playing a crucial role in absorption of fats. Okay, fats are absorbed through these lacteal, that is one of a lymphatic vessel. So this is also one of the important function of the lymphatic system. That is absorption of the fats and also transportation to the blood circulation. Okay, so this is the way how this lacteal helps in absorption and transportation of fats. So up to now we have studied how the fluid from the blood vessels escapes into the tissues, which is called as the tissue fluid, which is collected by the lymphatic vessels. Okay, like this, these lymphatic vessels, they are collecting this tissue fluid like this. Okay, from all the ways, the various body regions, such type of the lymphatic vessels are present and they are collecting this tissue fluid like this. Okay, but these lymphatic vessels have some specific structures which are called as the lymph nodes. Okay, so like this lymph nodes are present. It's not like completely like a closed one. Yes, it have one of a opening towards the lower end, we can say. So through which again one more blood like a lymphatic vessel will arises. Okay, so these are called as the afferent lymphatic vessel. Afferent means they are bringing this lymph into this lymph node. And once whatever the function it happens here, after that again the clear lymph will pass through this efferent lymphatic vessel. These lymph nodes are actually helps in filtering of the lymph. So filtering means, see here, once it is collecting this fluid from the tissues into these lymph vessels, chances are there that along with the escaped fluid, some other debris, dead cells, even some of the pathogens may also enter into this fluid. So that's why to clear all those unnecessary, unwanted, this type of the debris, dead cells and as well as the pathogens, okay, such type of the specific sites are designed in the lymphatic system which are called as the lymph nodes. Okay, lymph nodes. They are present at the regular intervals throughout the body. Okay, so these afferent lymphatic vessels brings this lymph, and in these lymph nodes that clearing process or the filtering process got completes, and that clear lymph pass through the efferent lymphatic vessel. Okay, and in this filtering process, the specific cells which are mainly playing a role, which we told, that is of the lymphocytes. Okay, which are playing a main role, which are lymphocytes. Okay, like T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, with their specific immune response, yes, they'll clear the pathogens if any they are present in this fluid. And yes, once that clear lymph enter into this efferent lymphatic vessel, now it travels up to the heart structure. Okay, that fluid through these various lymphatic vessels, further it will transport up to the, yes, heart. Okay, and as we know that heart consists of 4 chambers: right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. So now whatever these channels, okay, initially they are narrow, further they will be wider. Okay, the larger lymphatic vessels. Okay, and these larger lymphatic vessels, they'll go and pour this fluid into the right atrium. Okay, this whatever the collected fluid is there, so that is poured into this right atrium. This is the way how the fluid which escaped or seeped out of the capillaries, again it returns to the circulation. That's why our blood, even though such type of the leakage occurs in the capillaries, still it maintains its, that is a fluid nature. So that is the importance of lymphatic system, and this lymphatic system, the main basic medium or the fluid which flows in these lymphatic vessels, that is of the lymph. That means lymphatic system consists of lymph vessels. Okay, and especially this lymph is colorless fluid. We should remember that lymph is colorless as it doesn't possess the main formed elements, that is of the RBC. So RBC is absent. Only it consists of the other formed elements, especially of the, that is of lymphocytes. Okay, and the same way we should also remember, only it contains the small size substances, small size proteins, as the gaps of the capillaries allows the small size substances only, but not the larger one. And also lymph main function, if we like observe, yes, the one of the function is it clears the pathogens if any present in the tissues. Tissue-borne pathogens are cleared by this lymphatic system, and also it like return the escaped or the leaked fluid from the blood circulation again into the blood. And also through this lacteal, yes, it also helps in absorption of the fats. Okay, so these are all the functions of the lymph.